Right now, somewhere in northern Iraq, 24 machines are running. They have not stopped since 1986. They run through every war, every regime change, every missed paycheck, every sandstorm, every power cut, because if they stop for long enough, 4 million people die. This is Mosul Dam, and the ground beneath it is dissolving. Not slowly, not metaphorically. Right now, at this moment, the rock holding back 11 cubic kilometers of the Tigris River is being liquefied molecule by molecule, by the very water it was built to contain. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has seen the data. They wrote it down in black and white. Their official finding was unambiguous. Mosul Dam is, in their exact words, the most dangerous dam in the world. And that assessment has never been retracted. It has only been called managed. Managed. That is the word they use when the alternative is too large to say out loud. A wave 45 meters tall, 15 stories of water, would reach the city of Mosul in as little as 1 hour and 40 minutes. 1 hour and 40 minutes from the moment the dam fails to the moment a wall of water the height of a tower block erases the riverbank neighborhoods of a city of 1.5 million people. From there, the flood does not stop. It does not dissipate. It rolls south down the Tigris Basin for days, through Tikrit, through Samarra, and within 60 hours, the leading edge reaches the outskirts of Baghdad. 8 million people. Iraq's capital. The Green Zone. Hospitals. Government ministries. The central bank. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers modeled Mosul under 65 feet of water and parts of Baghdad under 15. The mean depth across the capital, 2 meters. 2 meters of water across half of a city of 8 million, sitting for days. Total flood path population, 4 to 6 million people. Roughly 1 in every 6 Iraqis. Projected deaths from the Army Corps, approximately 500,000. Independent estimates go as high as 1 million. But here is what makes this different from every other catastrophe you have ever been told about. Everyone already knows. They have known for decades. The geologists warned them before the first stone was laid. The contractors knew when they poured the foundation. The Iraqi Ministry of Water Resources has the reports. The US government wrote the reports. The Swedes published in academic journals. A journalist put it in the New Yorker. And yet, tonight, as you listen to this, a man is standing inside a damp gallery carved beneath the crest of that dam, watching a yellow steel pump shutter against a borehole, feeding cement slurry into rock he cannot see and hoping. That is the entirety of the safety system. Hope, cement, and 24 machines that cannot stop. To understand how the world arrived here, you have to go back to the late 1970s. Saddam Hussein wanted a flagship infrastructure project. A symbol of modernity on the Tigris. A consortium of European engineering giants, Germany's Hochtief, Italy's Impregilo, France's GTM, broke ground in 1981. They moved fast. They finished in 3 years. The reservoir filled in 1986. The dam stood 371 feet high, stretched 2.1 miles from bank to bank, larger than the Hoover Dam. By every visual measure, it was an achievement. But the geologists had flagged the site before a single cubic meter of concrete was poured. The bedrock under the chosen location was not granite. It was not basalt. It was gypsum and anhydrite calcium sulfate evaporite, the same chemical family as the scale that forms inside a kettle. It dissolves the moment water touches it. In the engineering world, this is not a complicated problem. It is a disqualifying one. You do not build a major dam on soluble rock. The original design knew this. The original plan called for a deep-sealed cutoff wall driven hundreds of feet into stable bedrock. A curtain that would prevent the reservoir from ever making contact with the foundation. But Saddam had a deadline. Saddam's deadline did not have room for that kind of work. So the contractors blanket grouted the foundation only 25 meters down. They threw in a 150-meter grout curtain directly under the spine of the dam. And then they filled the reservoir. And the rock began to dissolve. The math of what follows is simple and merciless. The Tigris upstream holds 11 cubic kilometers of water pressing against the upstream face at 30 meters of pressure head. Every second of every day. That pressure does not hammer the gypsum. It seeps into it. It liquefies it. Voids open in the rock below. Some the size of a basement, some the size of a parked car, and they open silently in total darkness, hundreds of feet underground where no camera can see them and no instrument can map them. The only way anyone knows they exist is when the cement pump's pressure gauge drops, because the slurry has suddenly found somewhere new to go. 50,000 tons of cement have been injected into that foundation since 1986. Enough cement to build a small dam from scratch. And the rock keeps swallowing it. Every shift, every day, forever. In September 2006, more than 20 years after the dam first filled, the United States Army Corps of Engineers arrived in Iraq to formally assess what had been kept standing through 2 Gulf Wars, a decade of sanctions, and the collapse of an entire government. Their report did not mince language. In terms of internal erosion potential of the foundation, they wrote, "Mosul Dam is the most dangerous dam in the world." The same report said the dam had an unacceptable annual probability of failure. They said it could fail without warning. Then they flew home. Then ISIS came. August 7, 2014. A column of Toyota pickup trucks carrying ISIS fighters rolled directly onto the crest of the dam. The Kurdish Peshmerga had been ordered to withdraw. Not a single shot was fired. For the next 9 days, a Sunni militant force that posted execution videos on Twitter held its hand on the most dangerous dam in the world, and on the drinking water of Baghdad, and on the lives of 4 million people who did not know what was happening 25 miles north of them. The grouting program stopped cold. The workers fled. The cement went quiet. And the earth underneath, indifferent to politics, indifferent to ideology, indifferent to the desperate human machinery trying to hold it together, kept dissolving on schedule. American airstrikes began on August 16th. Kurdish and Iraqi forces retook the dam on August 18th. The Italians went back to pumping cement. But those 9 days are not a closed incident. They are a proof of concept. They are evidence that this dam can be stopped, and evidence of exactly what happens when it is. In March of 2016, Iraq signed a €273 million emergency contract with Trevi, an Italian foundation engineering firm with the specific expertise to attempt what had to be done. Trevi spent 3 years on the dam. They drilled 403,000 meters of grouting holes. They injected 40,800 cubic meters of cementitious slurry. At the peak of the operation, 1,400 people lived on site. On June 14, 2019, with the Italian ambassador, the American ambassador, and the Iraqi minister all standing together in 110-degree heat, Trevi handed the dam back to Iraqi technicians. And then Trevi went home. The grouting did not stop. Cannot stop. It will never stop. That is the detail that sits at the center of everything. The Trevi contract was not a repair. It was an extension. It was the world's most expensive delay. And now the delay belongs entirely to the same Iraqi state that skipped payroll on its own dam workers, not once but repeatedly. Iraqi workers walked off the dam in 2014 and again in 2015 over months of unpaid wages. Half the maintenance staff disappeared. This is the country and this is the institution that now holds the forever contract. Now look at the map and follow what the models say happens. The dam sits on the Tigris 25 miles north of Mosul in Nineveh Governorate. In the worst-case scenario, a full, rapid breach, the wave reaches Mosul in 1 hour and 40 minutes at a peak height of 45 meters. In the slower partial breach scenario, Mosul gets up to 4 hours and a wave between 12 and 25 meters. Either scenario is a city killer. Either scenario kills people by the tens of thousands before any meaningful evacuation is possible. From Mosul, the surge continues south. Tikrit and Samarra take the impact between 36 and 48 hours later. The wave is no longer a vertical wall at that point. It has spread, flattened, and expanded into a total inundation of the river basin. By hour 60, the leading edge reaches Baghdad. The peak depth in Baghdad's low-lying districts hits 8 meters. The mean depth across the city sits at 2 meters. The projected casualty count from the Army Corps, 500,000. Independent estimates, up to 1 million. This is what engineers call internal erosion by piping, and this is how it ends a dam. One thin channel of dissolving rock connects the upstream face to the downstream toe. At first it is the width of a finger. Water pushes through. Sediment begins to move. The channel widens from a finger to a fist to a tunnel. The foundation gives. The dam, with nowhere left to go, follows. There is no crack in the concrete. There is no warning visible from the surface. There is only the sudden moment when the earth beneath decides it has dissolved enough. Colonel Philip Sechrest III, the U.S. Army Corps officer who oversaw the Trevi handover in 2019, called Mosul Dam a construction project that never ends. David Paul, lead civil engineer at the Corps Risk Management Center, went further. There is no precedent, he said, for what they are trying to achieve. Nobody has ever held a dam together this way before, and nobody knows how long it can keep working. Professor Nadhir Al-Ansari at Luleå University of Technology in Sweden has spent his career studying this specific dam. His assessment was direct. It will be worse than throwing a nuclear bomb on Iraq. He added that no matter how much grouting and maintenance is done, it may extend the lifespan of the dam, but it is only going to delay the disaster. Iraq's own Minister of Water Resources looked at the same data and called the risk 1 in 1,000. Both men have access to the same files. The disagreement between them is not a technical dispute. It is a statement about how human beings respond when the truth is too large to act on. One man sees the data and says catastrophe is inevitable, only delayed. The other sees the same data and says 1 in 1,000. Both are looking at the same dam. Both are looking at the same dissolving rock. The distance between their answers is not a gap in information. It is a gap in what either of them can afford to believe. Go down into the maintenance gallery and the abstraction ends. Hussein Al-Jabouri, deputy director of Mosul Dam, stands in a corridor carved under the crest of the dam. The walls are damp. Fluorescent tubes hum overhead. Pipes hiss. A yellow steel grout pump shudders in time with its piston. Beside it, a borehole drops vertically into the rock below, straight down into the dissolving foundation. The slurry moving through the line has the consistency of warm milk. Above Al-Jabouri's head, right now, sit 11 cubic kilometers of the Tigris River. He is feeding cement into voids he cannot see, cannot photograph, cannot scan with any instrument that exists. When Dexter Filkins of The New Yorker asked him how he knows the slurry is going where it needs to go, Al-Jabouri tapped the pressure gauge with one finger. Then he said 6 words. We feel our way through. 6 words. For million lives. Pressure gauge. A foundation being eaten alive by its own reservoir. Plugged blind by men who admit they are guessing. And the guess has held for 40 years. The drilling cores his crew pulls up from below have the texture of cake. They crumble in the hand. That is the foundation. That is the rock the dam is standing on. History does not make this easier to hear. Baghdad Dam, Italy. October 9, 1963. The geology was known. The engineers had been warned for years. Political pressure overrode the warnings. A landslide sent a 250-meter wave over the crest. The dam itself did not fail. The village of Longarone, 7 minutes downstream, did not exist by morning. 2,000 dead. Banqiao Dam, China. August 8, 1975. Typhoon Nina. Banqiao failed and pulled 61 other dams down with it in cascade. The death toll, between 170,000 and 230,000 people, was classified by the Chinese government for 30 years. It is the largest dam disaster in recorded human history. St. Francis Dam, California. March 12, 1928. William Mulholland inspected the dam personally that morning. He pronounced it safe. 12 hours later it was gone. The defense, we could not have known, has been the standard line at every dam disaster since. Mosul does not get that defense. The Army Corps wrote it down in 2006. Swedish academics published it in 2016. A journalist put it in The New Yorker in 2017. Trevi handed Iraq the operating manual in 2019. The only open question is not whether the dam can fail. The disagreement is when. And who pays? The U.S. Army Corps no longer holds the contract. Trevi went home. The cement supply, the payroll, the staffing rotation, the spare parts, the political will, all of it now sits inside the same Iraqi state that has skipped its own payroll, lost cities, retaken cities, and rebuilt its central government twice in the last decade. The grouting must continue forever. Forever is not a maintenance plan. Forever is a wager on institutional continuity in one of the most politically volatile regions on Earth. Does Iraq's Ministry of Water Resources keep the grouting budget intact through the next political crisis? Does the next round of unpaid wages empty the dam crew the way it did in 2014 and 2015? Does a regional conflict shut the supply road from Turkey for a month? Does ISIS regroup, or does some other armed faction decide the dam is not infrastructure but a weapon? The most efficient weapon in the history of asymmetric warfare, already loaded, already aimed, already pointed at 4 million people. No one knows. The Army Corps gave this dam an unacceptable annual probability of failure in 2006. That finding has never been retracted. It has only been called managed. Right now, inside that gallery under the crest, the 24 pumps are running. The slurry is moving through the lines. The Tigris is pressing its full weight against the upstream face. The foundation is dissolving. And 4 million people downstream are sleeping or driving to work or walking their children to school, entirely unaware that the thing standing between them and a 15-story wall of water is a pressure gauge, 40 years of guesswork, and 24 machines that have not been allowed to stop. The Army Corps wrote the warning down. The Swedes calculated the casualties. The Italians did the grouting. The journalists published the story. Everyone who has ever looked at this dam closely has reached the same conclusion. It is not a question of whether this foundation fails. It is a question of sequence. And the pumps keep running. And the clock does not stop.